"Pack your things, Margaret, you're fired." The words hit harder than the sound of the glass Vanessa dropped on the marble floor. The elderly maid froze, her hands trembling as Ethan watched from across the room, silent, indifferent. "I gave you everything," Margaret whispered. Vanessa smirked. "You cleaned floors, not lives. Don't make this dramatic." Margaret placed a small white envelope on the table. "Then read this before I go. You should know whose house you've been living in." The elevator doors closed behind her, and silence swallowed the penthouse. Neither of them knew that inside that envelope was a secret that would destroy their empire and change their hearts forever. Before we begin this emotional story, tell us in the comments from which city you are watching, and don't forget to leave your like to keep following us. The morning light poured through the panoramic windows of the penthouse, spilling gold over marble floors and mirrored glass. The city below looked like another world, tiny, distant, obedient. Inside, silence pressed against the walls. Only the faint hum of the air conditioner dared to breathe. Margaret stood near the table, her hands trembling as she held a white envelope. Her grey uniform was perfectly pressed, her apron spotless. Still, she looked out of place, too fragile, too human, for the cold perfection of that luxury apartment. Across the room, Ethan and Vanessa watched her. He in a tailored navy suit that whispered power, she in a silk dress that caught the morning light like it had been made for her skin. Vanessa's arms were folded tightly, the diamond on her finger flashing each time she moved. "Margaret," Ethan began, his tone polished but impatient, "we've decided it's time for some changes around here." The old woman lifted her eyes, searching his face for something familiar. He didn't meet her gaze. "I understand," she said quietly. Her voice carried the weight of decades spent serving others, steady, careful, trained not to break. Vanessa stepped forward, her heels tapping against the marble like soft threats. "You've been with us for 3 years, but lately, things have been slipping. The glasses not polished, the sheets not folded properly. You left the kitchen light on last night. Again." Margaret blinked, as if the words were too sharp to process. "I'm sorry, ma'am." "It's not about being sorry," Vanessa interrupted, her tone smooth as ice. "We just need someone who can keep up, someone younger." Ethan turned away, pretending to check his phone, his jaw tight. The silence that followed was unbearable. The city outside gleamed through the glass, indifferent. Margaret placed the envelope gently on the table. "This is something I wanted to give you before I go," she said softly. Vanessa frowned. "What is it?" "Just a letter," Margaret answered, eyes lowered. "For both of you." For a second, no one moved. The envelope lay between them like a ghost, silent, white, and dangerous. Then Vanessa scoffed lightly. "We'll read it later." She turned away, already dismissing the woman who had once known every corner of their lives. Margaret hesitated, then nodded. Her hands brushed over the marble surface one last time, feeling the chill. "Thank you for letting me work here," she whispered. Neither of them replied. The elevator door slid open behind her with a muted chime. Margaret stepped inside, and the doors closed slowly, cutting her reflection in half. Inside the apartment, Ethan exhaled. Finally. But the envelope remained on the table, untouched, catching the sunlight like it was waiting to speak. The day stretched long after Margaret's departure, though neither Ethan nor Vanessa said her name again. The apartment felt cleaner, quieter, too quiet. By late afternoon, sunlight turned copper on the skyline, and Vanessa poured herself a glass of champagne. The sound of the bottle opening echoed through the glass walls like a sigh. She leaned against the counter, scrolling through her phone, half bored, half restless. "Are you sure we did the right thing?" Ethan asked suddenly, his tone casual but uneasy. Vanessa glanced at him over her shoulder. "What do you mean?" He shrugged. She'd been here since, well, almost since we moved in. She was loyal, kind even. Vanessa's smile was thin. "Kind doesn't polish silverware, Ethan. She was slipping. You said it yourself. This place runs on perfection." He looked away, nodding, though his eyes lingered on the untouched envelope on the coffee table. The sunlight had shifted. It glowed now, the paper almost translucent. Hours passed. The city came alive beneath them. Horns, lights, distant laughter from the streets below. Vanessa went to change for dinner, her perfume trailing behind her. Ethan stayed behind, staring at that envelope like it held something he wasn't ready to face. When she returned, she found him still standing there, drink in hand. "Seriously?" she said, adjusting an earring. "You're still thinking about that letter?" "I just wonder what she wrote," he admitted. "She looked different, like she knew something." "She's a maid, Ethan. What could she possibly know?" Her words lingered in the air, sharp and dismissive. He hesitated, then reached for the envelope. The paper felt heavier than it should have. He ran a thumb under the seal, but before he could open it, Vanessa's phone buzzed loudly. She answered, her voice turning bright and polite, the social mask snapping back on. "Ethan, don't start with that now," she whispered between words. "We have dinner with the investors in 20 minutes. Leave the melodrama for later." Reluctantly, he set the letter back down. They left the apartment together, their reflections blending in the elevator mirrors. Outside, the city devoured them in noise and light. But back inside the penthouse, the envelope shifted slightly under the air vent's breeze, enough to reveal a few faint words through the thin paper, handwritten, trembling ink. "For Ethan and Vanessa, before it's too late." The city lights flickered through the glass as if reacting, whispering secrets neither of them could hear. When they returned later that night, the city was already asleep beneath a thin veil of fog. Vanessa kicked off her heels by the door, exhausted and tipsy, laughing softly as she tossed her clutch onto the sofa. Ethan followed in silence, his tie loosened, eyes darker than before. "Good dinner," she murmured, pouring herself another glass of wine. "The investors loved us." Ethan didn't respond. His gaze had already found the envelope again, still resting exactly where they'd left it, perfectly centered, perfectly still, as though it had been waiting. He picked it up. The paper was cool to the touch. He hesitated, then tore the flap open. Inside was a single folded page, the handwriting delicate but firm, written in blue ink that had bled slightly at the edges. Vanessa rolled her eyes. "You're really doing this now?" He ignored her. "Dear Ethan and Vanessa, I never had the courage to tell you this in person. For 3 years I've cleaned your floors, cooked your meals, ironed your shirts. I've listened to your arguments when you thought no one could hear. But what you don't know is that this apartment, this view, this life once belonged to me." Ethan froze. The words blurred in his mind. He read them again, slower. Vanessa laughed incredulously. "What? That's ridiculous. I built this place with my husband long before your company bought it. He was an architect. The city took everything from us when he died. We lost our home, our savings, and I ended up cleaning the very building we designed. I never blamed anyone for it, until I learned who signed the papers that forced us out." Ethan's throat tightened. Vanessa's voice dropped. "Ethan, what does she mean? Who signed the papers?" He didn't answer. His hand shook as he turned to the next line. "Ethan Cooper." The name looked like it had been carved into the paper, not written. Vanessa stared at him. "Is this true?" He rubbed his temple, suddenly pale. I don't know. My company handled dozens of foreclosure cases back then. I never looked at names." "She was one of them?" He didn't reply. Outside, thunder rumbled distantly, a low growl crawling up the skyline. Vanessa reached for the letter, scanning the next lines quickly. "I don't want revenge. But you should both know. What you built on someone else's ruin never lasts. One day the walls you polish will start whispering the truth." Vanessa dropped the page like it burned her. "This is insane. She's trying to guilt us." But Ethan didn't look convinced. He stood by the window, watching lightning flicker over the city he once believed he controlled. The reflection in the glass showed not a powerful man, but someone haunted. Someone being watched by the ghost of his own decisions. Behind him, the letter fluttered in the air conditioner's breeze, landing face up on the table. The last visible words read, "Before it's too late." And for the first time that night, Ethan wondered what those words truly meant. The rain began before dawn. It started as a whisper against the glass, then grew heavier, louder, like 1,000 small hands knocking on the windows of the penthouse. Vanessa woke first. The air felt colder than usual, and the faint scent of lavender filled the apartment. She frowned. She hadn't used that scent in weeks. It was Margaret's detergent. "Ethan," she called softly. He stirred beside her, eyes heavy with a restless night. "What time is it?" "6, but did you smell that?" He sat up, sniffing the air. The faint trace of lavender mixed with something else, warm bread. From the kitchen. Vanessa threw on her robe and walked down the hall, her bare feet tapping against the wood floor. When she reached the kitchen, her breath caught. The lights were off, but the toaster was still warm, a single slice of bread half burned inside. And on the counter, 2 mugs, one filled halfway with tea, steam still rising. Her fingers trembled as she touched the cup. It was hot. "Ethan," she called, "someone's been here." He rushed in, but the front door was still locked, the security system untouched. No sign of forced entry. "Maybe you forgot," he muttered, trying to sound rational. "Maybe we left it on last night." Vanessa shook her head. "No, I turned everything off." Her voice wavered, her eyes wide. "And Margaret always used that tea set, the blue one. I told her to stop." Ethan rubbed his face, frustration creeping in. "You're letting that letter get in your head." She turned to him sharply. "Then explain this." She held up the steaming cup, droplets trembling in her hand. He had no answer. Later that morning, Ethan left for the office, but his focus was gone. The letter replayed in his mind again and again. What you built on someone else's ruin never lasts. Meanwhile, Vanessa wandered the apartment alone. Every corner seemed to breathe memories of Margaret. The folded towels in the linen closet, the faint scent of lemon polish on the banister, the way the curtains swayed as if brushed by unseen hands. She walked into the laundry room and froze. The washing machine was running. Inside, white sheets turned slowly through soapy water. On top of the lid sat a small photo frame, one she didn't remember seeing before. It was a faded picture of a young woman with dark hair and gentle eyes, standing beside a man in a construction helmet. Behind them, a building rose half-finished, the same building they lived in now. Vanessa's breath hitched. The caption scrawled on the back read, "Margaret and Henry, 1992. The floor seemed to tilt beneath her. She picked up the frame and whispered, "How did this get here?" No one answered. Only the hum of the washer filled the silence, steady and low, like a heartbeat. Behind her, a soft ding echoed from the kitchen, the sound of the elevator arriving, but no one had called it. Ethan couldn't focus at the office. The rain had turned into a grey curtain outside his window, and the letter haunted him like a whisper he couldn't silence. His assistant Chloe handed him a folder to sign, but his pen hovered mid-air. "Sir, you okay?" He blinked, forcing a faint smile. "Yeah, just tired." But inside, he wasn't tired. He was unsettled, restless, guilty. When lunchtime came, he didn't eat. Instead, he typed Margaret Lane, New York into his laptop. Dozens of results appeared, old records, addresses, mentions in local community papers. And then one image froze him, a newspaper article dated 20 years earlier. Local architect Henry Lane dies in building collapse. Widow left with nothing. The black and white photo showed the same woman from the frame Vanessa had found that morning. Margaret, much younger, her face shadowed by grief. He clicked the article open. The construction project, located on West 52nd Street, was seized following bankruptcy of the contracting firm. The property was later acquired by Cooper Holdings Group. His heart stopped. Cooper Holdings, his father's company, his name on every contract. Ethan's hand clenched. The paper crackled under his grip as he printed the article. The realization crawled into his chest like ice. His family's wealth, his company, had profited from the tragedy that destroyed hers. He left the office without saying a word. Back at the penthouse, Vanessa was pacing. She looked pale, agitated. "Ethan, something's wrong here," she said the moment he walked in. "The elevator came up again while I was in the shower. I heard it. But no one got out. And then the hallway lights flickered." He didn't answer. He just handed her the article. She scanned it quickly, her lips parting. This is the same address, our building." "Yes." His voice was quiet, tight. "My father's company took it after her husband died. She lost everything. And somehow, I ended up living here." Vanessa's throat tightened. So she knew. She worked for us knowing who we were. He nodded. And she said she didn't want revenge. But what if she meant something else? The storm outside growled louder, thunder shaking the glass walls. A flash of lightning illuminated the living room. Then for a brief moment both froze. On the counter near the sink, 2 teacups sat side by side, fresh, steam rising from both. Vanessa gasped, stumbling back. "Ethan, we were gone all day." He walked closer, heart pounding. The cups were identical to the ones from that morning, Margaret's blue set, and between them, a folded note. His fingers shook as he opened it. The handwriting was the same, uneven, gentle, unmistakably hers. "You can't undo what's been done, but you can face it, go where it all began." Vanessa whispered, "Go where what began?" Ethan looked up, eyes dark. West 52nd Street. Lightning flared again, and this time, for a split second, a faint reflection appeared on the glass door leading to the balcony, an outline of a woman standing still, facing the city. When Ethan turned, no one was there. The rain didn't stop the next morning. It fell in heavy sheets that blurred the skyline, drowning the city's usual rhythm. Ethan drove through it in silence, his hands gripping the steering wheel until his knuckles turned white. Vanessa sat beside him, clutching the photo of Margaret and her husband. Neither spoke. When they turned onto West 52nd Street, the world seemed to slow. The once bustling block was quieter now, swallowed by construction sites and new towers of glass. But at the far end, behind a rusted fence, a single building remained, abandoned, half swallowed by ivy, its broken windows like blind eyes staring at them. Ethan parked and got out. The rain soaked him instantly. Vanessa hesitated, then followed, her heels sinking into the mud. "This is it," she whispered. He nodded. The article said the collapse happened here. Henry Lane was working on this site when it happened. They pushed open the old gate. It groaned loudly, a sound that seemed to echo deeper than the street itself. Inside, the ground was uneven, littered with debris and cracked cement. A faded sign hung crookedly on the wall. "Lane and Partners, Architecture with Heart." Vanessa brushed dirt off the sign, her eyes softening. "Architecture with Heart," she murmured. She must have come here often. "Maybe she never left," Ethan said under his breath. As they walked deeper inside, a faint smell of dust and old paper filled the air. In the far corner of what used to be an office, a small wooden chest sat beneath a broken beam. It was weathered, the brass lock rusted, but still intact. Ethan knelt, forcing it open with a piece of metal. The lid creaked, revealing stacks of letters, blueprints, and photographs, a whole life sealed away. On top lay an envelope with his name written in that same trembling hand. He opened it slowly. "Ethan, if you are reading this, it means you've finally chosen to see. I worked for you not to hurt you, but because I wanted to understand how a man becomes blind to the pain he causes. I watched you and your wife live in the house my husband dreamed of finishing, and I forgave you long before you knew my name." Vanessa's eyes filled with tears. Ethan's throat tightened as he kept reading. Henry died saving his men when the structure failed. He believed people were worth more than buildings. I believed him. I only wanted you to believe it too. He swallowed hard, a tremor running through his voice. "She forgave us." Vanessa touched the edge of the letter, whispering, "But why leave all this behind?" Ethan looked deeper into the chest and found a faded blueprint of their penthouse. Except in the corner, scribbled in pencil, were the initials HL and a note that read, "For the family who will live here. May love always be stronger than greed." The rain hit harder on the roof, almost rhythmic, like an echo of a heartbeat. Vanessa turned to him. "She wasn't haunting us, Ethan, she was showing us." He nodded slowly, eyes glistening. "What we took and what we lost." For a moment, the wind rushed through the broken windows, and they both swore they heard something. A woman's soft hum, distant yet warm. A song Margaret used to sing while cleaning, the one that used to fill their mornings without them noticing. Vanessa pressed her hand against her chest. "She's gone, isn't she?" Ethan looked around the ruined space, the blueprint still in his hands. Maybe not completely. Outside, the storm began to ease, but inside that half-fallen building, something finally felt still, as if a wound long ignored had started to close. The drive back to the penthouse was silent. The rain had stopped, but grey clouds still hung low, pressing against the city's glass towers. Ethan parked the car in the underground garage, his clothes still damp from the morning storm. Vanessa sat quietly beside him, the photograph of Margaret and Henry resting on her lap. Neither of them moved. When they finally stepped into the elevator, its mirrored walls reflected two strangers, pale, distant, stripped of the arrogance that had once fit them like armor. As the doors opened to their floor, the scent of lavender greeted them once again, soft and familiar. Vanessa hesitated. "Do you smell that?" Ethan nodded. "It's her, always was." The apartment looked untouched, every surface gleamed, every cushion perfectly placed, as if Margaret had just finished cleaning. But something was different. The air was warmer, quieter. The letter on the table was gone. Vanessa's breath caught. "Ethan, it's not here." He looked around. Maybe it fell. They searched the room. Nothing. Until Vanessa noticed something tucked into the frame of the living room mirror. Another note, written in the same hand. "Forgiveness isn't found in words. It's in what you choose to do next." Her eyes filled instantly. She knew we'd come back. Ethan took the note gently, his jaw trembling. She wanted us to see ourselves, really see. He walked to the window and stared at the city below, the empire his family had built on contracts and signatures, the same empire that had cost someone her life's work. "We need to do something," he said finally. "Not for her memory, for the people like her, the ones we never saw." Vanessa looked at him uncertain. "What do you mean?" "Sell the penthouse, the company, everything my father left behind that came from this." She stared at him, stunned. "Ethan, that's..." "Right," he interrupted softly. "It's the only right thing." She didn't argue. For the first time in years, she didn't have to. There was something new in his eyes, peace mixed with pain, the kind that meant he had finally stopped running from himself. They sat together on the sofa, the city glowing faintly through the rain-streaked windows. For a long time, neither spoke. Then Vanessa whispered, "Do you think she knew this would happen, that we'd find the truth?" Ethan smiled faintly, eyes fixed on the skyline. "I think she hoped we would." The lights flickered once, a brief pulse, and in that quiet moment, Vanessa swore she heard it again, that soft, familiar hum. It drifted through the air like a memory, gentle and forgiving. She leaned against Ethan's shoulder, tears slipping silently down her cheek. And as thunder rolled far in the distance, the city lights reflected across the glass, forming two faint silhouettes beside them, a man and a woman standing hand in hand. By the next morning, the city looked different. The storm had washed the skyline clean, and the light that broke through the clouds carried a clarity Ethan hadn't felt in years. He stood by the window, coffee untouched, watching the reflection of his own face against the endless rows of buildings. Behind him, Vanessa spoke softly into the phone. "Yes," she said to their realtor, her voice steady. "We're selling the penthouse, immediately." When she hung up, silence filled the room. Ethan turned. "You're sure?" She nodded slowly. "For the first time, yes." They spent the rest of the day packing in quiet rhythm. Every sound, the closing of drawers, the echo of footsteps, carried a strange peace. It wasn't loss, it was release. In one of the boxes, Vanessa found a stack of Margaret's old cleaning logs, pages written in careful cursive, each entry dated, organized. "Look at this," she said, handing it to Ethan. He flipped through them, notes about supplies, laundry, grocery lists, and then near the back a folded paper different from the rest. It was brittle, yellowed by time, an old property deed, the same one tied to the Lane and Partners building. At the bottom, two signatures stood out, Henry Lane and Arthur Cooper, Ethan's father. Vanessa's eyes widened. "Your father signed this with her husband?" Ethan scanned the fine print. His pulse quickened. "This wasn't a foreclosure document, it's a partnership." He read aloud, "The property shall remain under joint ownership for the purpose of affordable housing construction, pending agreement by both partners." Vanessa frowned. "Affordable housing? But your company turned it into luxury condos. He shook his head slowly. Then my father must have broken the contract after Henry died. She wasn't just a victim. She was his partner's wife. She knew the truth. Vanessa's voice softened. And she let you find it yourself. Ethan sank into the sofa, staring at the paper, trembling in his hands. The weight of generations pressed against his chest. She could have exposed us, taken everything. But she didn't. She forgave you, Vanessa whispered, before you ever asked. He looked up, eyes glassy. Then we'll finish what she started. The next week moved like a tide. Ethan called a press conference. Reporters filled the marble lobby of Cooper Holdings, their cameras reflecting off his face as he stood before them. No longer the impenetrable CEO, just a man with truth to tell. My company was built on a lie, he began, his voice calm but heavy. We took from those who trusted us. From a woman who worked for me, who showed me more grace than I ever deserved. Her name was Margaret Lane, and today I return what's hers. Flashbulbs burst. Questions flew. But he didn't flinch. Later that evening, back at the penthouse, their last night there, the air felt lighter. Vanessa lit a single candle on the counter, its flame dancing softly. Ethan placed the deed beside it, signing the papers that would transfer the property to a housing foundation in Margaret's name. As the pen left the page, a small draft passed through the room, flickering the flame. Vanessa smiled faintly. Did you feel that? Ethan nodded, his voice barely above a whisper. Yeah, like she's here. The candle flame steadied, glowing brighter. For a brief, fragile second, it cast a shadow on the wall, the outline of an elderly woman standing beside them, smiling. And then it was gone. The world didn't let them disappear quietly. Within days, every newspaper, blog, and financial channel ran the same headline: Millionaire CEO returns fortune. After discovering his company's hidden past, some called him insane, others called him brave. But Ethan didn't care. For the first time in his life, the noise outside didn't define him. He and Vanessa moved into a modest townhouse in Brooklyn, small, sunlit, and alive with the sound of the street below. The kind of place where neighbors actually said hello, where silence didn't echo. One evening, as the sun dipped behind the buildings, Ethan sat at the kitchen table sorting through mail. Most of it was official: contracts, donation letters, requests for interviews. But one envelope stood out. No stamp, no return address, just his name. He felt a chill crawl down his spine. Vanessa, he called softly. She came over, drying her hands. What is it? He turned the envelope over. The handwriting was the same as before. Soft, careful, a little shaky. Margaret's. But that was impossible. He opened it slowly, his breath shallow. Inside was a short letter and an old key tied to a faded blue ribbon. Dear Ethan and Vanessa, if you're reading this, it means you've made the choice I prayed you would. I left something for you, not in anger, not in guilt, but in gratitude. Go back to the building on West 52nd Street. There's a small metal box under the floor of Henry's office. It's yours now. Thank you for finally seeing us. Margaret? Vanessa's eyes widened. A box? What could it be? Ethan's hand closed around the key. I don't know, but we'll find out. The next morning, they drove back to the old building. The construction crews had already begun preparing it for restoration under the new housing project. When Ethan explained who he was, the foreman nodded and led them inside. Dust floated like ghosts in the light filtering through broken windows. Ethan walked straight to the office where they had found the chest before. The floorboards creaked as he knelt and began searching along the wall. And there it was, a small square panel loose at the corner. He pried it open. Beneath, wrapped in cloth, lay a tiny metal box secured by a simple lock. The key fit perfectly. Inside were two items, a gold pocket watch and a letter. Ethan lifted the watch first, engraved with the initials HL. On the inside lid, a message was etched in faint script. Time doesn't heal, it reveals. Vanessa touched it gently. She kept this all these years. Ethan unfolded the final letter. This watch belonged to Henry. He always said time was the only thing worth giving. I'm giving it to you now because you gave something rarer, truth. If you ever forget what matters, win this watch and remember the sound of forgiveness. Tears blurred his vision. Vanessa reached for his hand. They stood in silence, listening, and faintly, beneath the wind and the distant hum of the city, they both heard it. A soft ticking sound, steady and calm. The old watch was running again. Outside, sunlight broke through the clouds, flooding the broken windows with gold. For the first time, the place didn't feel haunted. It felt whole. Months passed. The city moved on, but for Ethan and Vanessa, everything had changed. The new housing complex on West 52nd Street was nearly finished. A clean, modern design built upon the bones of the old structure. Its name shone in bronze letters by the entrance, the Lane Residence. Ethan visited the site every morning, dressed no longer in suits but in rolled-up sleeves and worn jeans. He'd stand among the workers, offering a hand, listening to their stories. For the first time, he wasn't building for profit. He was building for people. Vanessa, too, had changed. She had started a foundation in Margaret's name, helping older women find work and shelter in the city. "They've cleaned the world for everyone else," she once said softly. "It's time someone cared for them." One quiet afternoon, they stood together before the finished building. The ribbon-cutting ceremony had ended hours ago, and the last of the guests had gone. Only the sound of the wind remained, brushing through the courtyard like a whisper of memory. At the center stood a bronze bench with a small plaque. It read, "In loving memory of Margaret and Henry Lane, who taught us that forgiveness builds what money never can." Vanessa rested her head on Ethan's shoulder. "She'd like this," she said. He smiled faintly. "She's here." From his pocket he pulled out the gold watch. It was still ticking softly, steady, rhythmic, alive. He wound it once, and the sound seemed to echo through the courtyard, blending with the wind. "I think she'd say time didn't take her from us," Vanessa whispered. "It just waited until we learned to listen." They sat in silence, hand in hand, watching the sunlight paint long shadows across the courtyard. Nearby, children laughed as they ran past, their voices bright and untamed. Families moved into the building carrying boxes, dreams and laughter, life returning where tragedy once lived. Ethan looked around, eyes misty. "She wanted this," he murmured. "Not revenge, continuation." As they stood to leave, a small envelope fluttered from the bench, carried by the breeze as if placed there by unseen hands. Vanessa picked it up. There was no name, only 2 words written in that same familiar cursive. "Thank you." They both smiled, tears in their eyes. Ethan tucked the envelope into his jacket pocket, and for a moment, the sunlight caught something in the glass door of the building. 2 faint reflections, an elderly woman and a man beside her, standing quietly, smiling. Vanessa turned to look, but they were gone. The watch ticked once more, clear and sharp in the fading light. Then came silence, peaceful, whole. The story of Ethan and Vanessa began with arrogance and blindness. A world where success meant stepping over others without ever looking down. But it ended in a place far quieter, far truer. The penthouse that once symbolized perfection became just a shadow of what they had lost. In its place rose something far stronger: dignity, forgiveness, and the kind of wealth that can't be counted in numbers. Margaret Lane never sought revenge. She sought remembrance. Through her silence, she taught them the most powerful truth, that redemption isn't about forgetting what you've done. It's about choosing who you become afterward. The watch she left behind didn't just measure time. It measured transformation. Every tick carried a reminder that compassion outlives fortune and forgiveness rebuilds what pride destroys. And so, 2 people who once believed they had everything finally understood the only thing worth having: a heart unburdened by guilt, guided by grace. Thank you for staying with us until the end of this heart-touching story. Tell us in the comments which part moved you the most. Subscribe and turn on the bell to receive more stories that inspire and transform. Leave a like if you believe in the invisible strength of dignity and family. And above all, thank you for being part of this community that believes in stories with soul. And before you go, watch the story I leave here on the left. I'm sure it will also move you and make you reflect.